Okay, here we are trying to figure out what we're going to do. We're in
Carolina Beach.
Carolina Beach. We have Hurricane Ian that is pretty far away right now. I mean, it's south of Cuba. It looks like it's. It looks like it might be affecting Jamaica right now. And actually, I don't even think it's a hurricane at this
No, it's a
point.
tropical storm.
It's a
as of
tropical
right now.
storm. Let's look at that. It has 45 knot sustained winds, 50 knot gust. Okay.
But expected to be a hurricane by the time it hits Florida.
Expected to be a major hurricane by the time it hits Florida,
Possibly
actually.
Category 30.
Um,
Do we head down toward like Beaufort, South Carolina, or Hilton Head and kind of hold up there? That way we're like part of the way to Fernandina, which is where we have our next set of gigs. Or do we stay put in Carolina Beach until what will probably be the end of next weekend? So we lose an entire week of travel time to wait out that storm, but would that be a lot safer? That's the question we're trying to figure out, yeah?
we have two options to go down. We have the Intercoastal Waterway, and we have the outside, which we prefer.
And the reason we prefer it is
Well,
because,
for a number of reasons why we
yeah,
prefer
but
it.
we're sailors. We love sailing. We love not having the engine on.
Dislike bridges and
We dislike
opening
having
bridges.
to go through bridges.
Um,
And it's cheaper to not have to run the motor all the
So
time.
it's a hell of a lot easier for us just to go down the outside. And this boat can, handle it a lot better than, a smaller boat with, or smaller motor boat.
As our friend Jesse liked to say, you guys know you're not on a small boat, right? Okay.
We're not on a large boat either.
No.
But there are inlets in various points where you can safely go in from the ocean to the inside and connect up with the Intercoastal Waterway. We are about 3 or 4 hours away from one of those inlets, and our plan was to go down to the end of the Cape Fear River, which is the next inlet down, head out of there, and go down to Little River. I keep wanting to call it Little Bird. I don't know why.
I don't know. Think Little River Band.
I know, right? A Little River Inlet, spend the night, and then head from there down to
Georgetown?
Winya Bay entrance,
Oh, yeah.
which is what goes up into Georgetown. Georgetown's a ways up in there.
Still dealing with 25 knot winds while you're going through bridges that might have, limited openings and you're trying to hit it just right.
Look at
That's a
all
little nerve-wracking too.
look at all the bridges between
I don't like that.
Little River and Georgetown.
I'm not a fan.
Okay, so we had like 13 that popped up here. Jesus. 65, a fucking railroad bridge.
Ugh. We've had bad experiences with
Yeah, they're supposed to, railroad bridges are normally open, so you get like, I used to get all excited, well, it's a railroad bridge that's normally going to be open, except for when they're not. And for
And then
some
it's like,
reason,
hours.
they keep tabs on us and they know when we're coming and they close them.
Molly Nogger's coming. Let's make sure that we're not
Oh
open.
my Christ. Yeah, the bridges are probably more predictable than the sea, so I would probably, logically, I would probably say go the inside. The other option we have is sitting here
Well,
and
and
waiting to see what
Ian.
and waiting to see what Ian is actually going to do, because I suspect that once it gets above Jamaica and hits into western Cuba or the Yucatan, whatever it's going to go into, once it hits that, then we'll have a better idea of where this cyclone is going.
So Galen's looking on the waterway guide and checking out what some of the anchorages are in that area.
Yeah, so it looks like you basically just stay right close to shore.
Yeah.
And you can anchor up in these places here. And that's right in town. Look how protected that is. Fuck yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
so
first
cool.
glance, I say we should go. So I'm thinking we maybe we take the outside to Little River, and then unless the weather predictions change, hit the inside to Georgetown, and then at Georgetown decide if we're going to hold up there until the hurricane passes, or if we're going to press on the inside down to Charleston.
It's the next morning after our intense hurricane review and talk. Pickles is on watch for the alligator that we saw the other day.
No.
So
So much for that.
So much for that. He's just napping in the nice breeze. And Galen and I are out in the cockpit and having some coffee. And how are you feeling now as compared to last night?
I'm actually, so it intensified into a hurricane overnight. It's weird, the predict wind models have it going into the Yucatan Peninsula, but the just, you know, their own models, but which is, I think, wrong. But the other models all have it coming north. It's really weird. It's pulling a lot from, like, it's going to be in the Gulf, but it's pulling wind all the way down from, like, the Chesapeake. It seems like down through. We're gonna have like a major, well, not a major wind event, but it's gonna be
A wind event.
It's gonna be blowing here from the northeast because of that hurricane went down there. So if that's drawing wind all the way from up here, that's, I don't know. I'm not a hurricane expert, but that just tells me, damn, this is gonna be a big one. And when it does, if it does come up the Gulf and hit, it's gonna be, you know, that could be Cat 3, Cat 4 easily. So I'm like,
And we were talking last night about the fact that if it winds up being from the northeast, this might actually be the best place to be, where we are right now.
if we get wind from the northeast being right here, we have all these buildings right behind us here, which would be in front of us. From the northeast, it would be blocking. I guess the big thing is, do we go to Georgetown? Because that looked like it was protected from the northeast as well, and it's farther up inland. So it actually might be better in Georgetown. The fact that we're not familiar with Georgetown.
And we don't know how many other people are going to have the same idea from down there.
Yeah, that's a sticking point. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I guess I'm like 60% leaning towards staying here through the week and seeing what the hurricane does. But that, I mean, in 2 hours the forecast could change, and I might be like, oh, let's get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
But right now, if that thing hits, like, if that goes up and hits the corner there, Florida, that's gonna that's a major hurricane. I mean, it could just blow right over that. It'd still be a Cat 1 by the time it went over into South Carolina. So we could still be setting ourselves up for being in the path of a Cat 1 if we're in Georgetown.
Meanwhile, the cat just wants to, like, lie in the sun and chill and not too much wind and watch the boats go by. I've been reaching out to a few of my sailing sisters through the Women Who Sail group and finding out their thoughts about Georgetown, because I think we've got it narrowed down to we're either staying here in Carolina Beach or we're headed out this afternoon for a short run and a longer run tomorrow and Wednesday to get down to Georgetown, South Carolina. So talking to them about the holding down there, what the environment's like, is there lots of room to anchor, and we're checking all that online too, with comments that other people have put up about that region. Luckily, we live in an age where there's lots of resources for that stuff, but it's still a matter of, do we stay here or do we go there?
So 007's actually performing today. I've seen 6 to 11 amps going in, which is uncharacteristic of that, even in the storm. So she's putting out today, so that's good.
Well, it's blowing. What was the last round? Was probably around 30, 32.
No, it's in the high 20s though.
Is it? To try to give you the lay of the land here, you've got Lori Sue behind, you've got 007 going to town on the wind right now. If you look down this way, that's the southern part of the canal, like down here is where Stoked and the town dinghy docks are. We've got some boats moored in front and behind us. All of the mooring balls are full right now. They're hurricane rated, so that's one of the reasons we moved down here. And you can see over here toward land, we can see homeowners out dealing with some flooding already on Canal Street on their properties. We've got a big catamaran in front of us too. And one of the reasons we came over here is because the wind should be shifting kind of this direction. So we're going to be pulled back away from these buildings, and it should be a relatively safer spot than where we were before. So if we were to drag at all, we'd be dragging in this direction. It should be a little bit more protected. That's what we're hoping anyway. Hi everybody. It's starting to definitely pick up around here. We're getting blown around pretty considerably. Definitely feel the winds picking up. The driving rain has started as well. Definitely all the boats around us are moving around a lot. And this might not, sorry for my finger, might not seem like it's that big of a deal, but I'm hunkered down under the edge of this Dodger, and I'm just going to stick my head up just so that you can hear the difference, and I'm going to try to keep hanging onto my phone at the same time. Doing this from inside the Dodger because we're wind protected. It's still a little too crazy. You're not gonna be able to hear me if I go outside all the way. But we have our mast, our mast and our mainsail right here. And if we're gonna get anything over 50 knots, I always wrap the mast, like put a line really, really tightly on over our sail and our sail cover. And I'm so glad I do that. And we also really tightly secure our head sail out in front so that it's a really tight line. And here's why we do that. So if you look over here, there's a boat, 2 boats over from us, and you can see his sail cover. It's flapping all over the place. I'm not sure whether he secured his sail and then just put the sail cover over it, but that sail cover is just flapping all over creation. I'm gonna hone in on it a little bit. So he's probably going to lose his sail cover here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. And if his sail comes loose underneath that, that'll just be really bad for him. And then down the way here, I'm not sure if my phone will pick it up, but down the way here, if you look past the sign, you'll see somebody's sail is just completely shredded down there, and we're waving all over the place. So I never feel bad about being a little overcautious and wrapping things tightly, even if we're not sure we're going to get the kind of winds where it's going to be a problem. We came out for a little while into the cockpit because, believe it or not, it's actually a little better right now than it was. And still very churned up. You know, the boats are still moving pretty erratically, but everybody's holding on the moorings, which is good. If you're familiar with Carolina Beach, you can see that that sign there is way, way more flooded than it normally is. And everybody's dipping around and shaking, but holding their own. We've reached the stage where we have things like free-floating dumpsters going across the canal. Oh, good.